David Coulthard drives an incredible race to hold off Michael Schumacher in the wet. Disaster for Juan Pablo Montoya in his third ever race in Formula One, and a whole lot of names that we recognise today. G'day there, my name is James Baldwin, and welcome to another episode of Lakeside Drive's F1 podcast. In this episode, it's a classic race review, this time of the 2001 Brazilian Grand Prix. And I'm joined, as always, by my friends and yours, the very tired Thomas J. Camp. Hello there, mate.
Boys, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. And Tommy T. Hello, friend.
For once, I'm not the tired one. I love this.
I know. Yeah, it's good. It's a good vibe all round. We were just having a very lighthearted, easy conversation about politics before we started recording. So Campy's in a wonderful frame of mind.
Campy's ready to rage.
Go on.
I've slept about 4 hours since Friday because of these storms.
God, the
Let me
story's
get my
already getting
notepad
taller,
out.
isn't it? Yeah.
Let me get my notepad out, Campy, so I can write
It's
down
going to be
timestamps.
10 minutes by the time we finish this bloody story, isn't it?
Look, I didn't help myself. I got up at 3 a.m. this morning, went round to the old man's to watch the All Blacks Wales game. So that I'm just feeling the pain of it right now. I'm just crawling up inside because I'm getting some sleep.
Campy.
Exactly.
Look,
I can't get my words out today.
When can you ever? Massive shout out to your commitment to sport, my friend. That is the real Lakeside Drive way. I look forward to your rugby podcast whenever that is going to happen. Something that I would listen to. Very, very good. Hey, everyone. Look, massive shout out to you if you have subscribed to our YouTube channel. 593 of you have done that. Huge and so good, really. Thank you so much for that. It's fantastic to have your support. We're not far away from reaching 1,000 subscribers means we can start making some ad revenue on YouTube. I've just got to tell you that, and I'm going to keep banging on about it because it doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us a huge amount. Also, a shout out to our Discord server, of course. If you want to be part of our community, the best way to do that is to jump on our Discord. The link is either in the description below if you're watching or in the description below if you're listening as well. And a thank you as well to Raw Doggies, which is an interesting username on Apple Podcasts, leaving us a 5-star review. He says, cracker of a show, great for those people who have jumped onto the F1 train because of Drive to Survive. Really, really great stuff. Thank you to you for that. But this is a classic race review. It's good to finally do one. It's great that Campy had all the time in the world to watch the race, all the time in the world to prepare, and he's only watched it just before we started recording. So good stuff from him. Tommy T, though, this seems to be your bag. It was your good idea, Pinata, way back when in the early part of the year. So give us a little bit of background, could you, to 2001. I will. 2001 Brazilian Grand Prix. What race in the calendar is it? Where are we at? All that sort of other stuff. Give us some BG.
Give us the lay of the land. So it's very, very different, obviously, than the current regulations, all the things that we're used to now. So Brazil was the third race of the year, which we're not used to at the moment. It's near the end of the calendar. So third race of the year, we'd had Melbourne before, and I can't remember the other one. But anyway, Schumacher had won both and had pole in all three going into this Brazilian race. So he was on fire. The engines, we've got V10s, no more than 3,000 cc. Traction control was allowed back again, which is bizarre. It was outlawed in 94. We also had automatic transmission and launch control. So basically, we're running some go-karts. I reckon Campy could even have a run at the moment. All the driver aids.
He'd hurt his neck into lap 2.
Yeah.
Did you just say automatic transmission?
Automatic
Flappy paddle
transmission.
gearboxes. Flappy paddles.
Flappy paddles, right.
So
like what we've got now.
Yeah.
Rear wings were limited to 3 elements. The scoring
we could
was...
use that today, couldn't we?
You're not wrong.
Do you reckon bring that back?
Oh.
The scoring was only the top 6. It was 10, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. It was the rookie season of Montoya, Kimi, and Alonso. Persia had just pulled out of the sport from the previous year, and Renault was new and was supplying engines for, was it Williams or one of the other teams? I can't remember who.
Mercedes.
We also had Michelin come in as a tyre supplier. So we had 2 tyre suppliers. Campy, can you talk to us about why and how 2 tyre suppliers worked?
We had the Michelin and the Bridgestone, and the Bridgestone was by far the better tyre, but they only supplied tyres to corrupt teams like Ferrari and
That's the answer I wanted.
Well, no.
Just like a couple of minutes in, boom, corruption. Love it.
I'm a bit grumpy this morning.
I love
this
it.
afternoon,
No, couldn't
this
tell.
evening, but
Can you imagine if that happened now?
that was just another way that Ferrari gave the finger to the rest of the paddock, really, and hence why they won 5 world championships on the spot because they had better tyres. The Michelin's did perform on some tracks like this one. Saw one Pablo. It was the first time he really had the chance to drive on a track where the Michelin's work, but the Bridgestones were by far the better tyre at the time.
James and I were talking before you jumped on. Do you reckon there's a place for multiple tyre suppliers going into the future of F1? Do you reckon we thought maybe what if you had 2 tyre suppliers and you got to pick your choice between 2, not that you were aligned to just one for the whole season as a team?
Kind of like that. The problem with tyres is there's too many variables as it is. Why would you try and introduce more variables for tyres?
Because you've got to make a good decision then.
Well, we just want tyres that can go flat out for 25 laps and then fall off a cliff and die, and we want minimum 2 stops a race, if not 3 stops. Like, that's what we want. So
Campy's going to be the director of Pirelli, it sounds like, and just make that happen.
Be a good job for you, actually.
Yeah, Pirelli. I don't think Pirelli had performed over the last sort of
I don't think so either, to be honest.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
We're going back to Bridgestone.
Yeah, but why would Bridgestone come back? Or Michelin?
Yeah.
I mean, they got out and they left because of politics in the sport. They're just like, can't handle this. This is stupid. Pirelli jumped in. I mean, why would you want to associate yourself with F1, under the Bernie Eccleston era if you weren't in the good books? Like, honestly, you're on the
it's
outer.
a different era, isn't it?
Yeah, different era.
Maybe there's some room for new American suppliers. I know, like Mickey Thompson could come in with their 4x4 tyres.
Get some Deegan 38 tyres on the Formula 1.
Jeepers.
Just saying it now. It's the only time that Campy would be interested probably in talking tyre talk. And look, Benetton, by the way, was the Renault-powered team.
Yes.
Look, talk about 2001, Tommy T, because
I've got some little highlights here, don't I?
It feels like it's only a couple of years ago, but it was in fact
long,
20 years ago. 20 bloody years ago. Talk. What was going on?
Just to put you back in that frame of mind, so I'm just going to go random order on this stuff. Tiger Woods wins his second Masters and Lance Armstrong wins the Tour de France. We've got U2 wins a Grammy for that ridiculous album that wasn't that great, was it, Campy?
Nope.
Gladiator.
I like U2 as well, but like that Beautiful Day record was a stinker.
Gladiator wins an Oscar. Russell Crowe wins that. The Xbox is released. We've got the first Harry Potter movie comes out. We've got George W. Bush is sworn in and then declares the war on terror. We've got iTunes begins and also Wikipedia starts, which is where I got all this information from. So that's just nice little synergy right there. It is. It's a different time. But like you said, James, it doesn't feel that long ago, but also it is a lifetime ago. Bizarre.
Well, I was in year 8 and I can assure you I had a smaller beard than what I did now, and I was still fighting them off back then too. So.
I hear you were a bit of a basketball prodigy, Campy. You were pretty good back in the day at basketball.
Who was your hero back then? It was the GOAT, wasn't it?
Was LeBron James, wasn't it?
Was LeBron James the GOAT of basketball?
LeBron. A young high school LeBron was your idol.
I was probably I was probably Voss or James Hird. They were my 2 favourite footy players. So. You're a dickhead, Tommy. Seriously.
Hi, Mark.
K is going to slap you.
Mark is going to find me in a dark alley. I'm doing it to wind him up.
This is the kind of podcast that we are, by the way. We're only really doing an inside joke for one of our listeners. Out of the thousands that we have, this is how it plays out. Yeah, bizarre time. And some awesome brands existed in sponsorship. Of course, there was a lot of cigarette branding, but some other good ones too, TT.
Which is bizarre to think that only 20 years ago we still had cigarette branding everywhere. But yeah, we had classic Marlboro. We had Lucky Strike matches. Mm-hmm. We saw Orange Mobile, which became, 3 Mobile and then morphed into whatever the heck it is
Vodafone,
now.
I think,
We saw Nokia, which was also who the hell has a Nokia anymore?
Compaq as well in that same vein. Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
On the
that
side of the
wasn't a good
Williams?
logo though, so no one cares.
Yeah.
I saw an excellent looking Ferrari bucket hat, which I really loved and I would wear now, actually. If someone can find me a 2001 era Ferrari bucket hat, I would happily wear it.
Yep. There you go.
And we saw the start of Red Bull on the Sauber uniforms. And this was obviously well before they were a team themselves. It was, good to see them entering the sport as first as a sponsor before they came over and just took over a whole team.
Well, yeah, you look back at, the OG photos of Kimi, who is in this race in the Sauber uniform, and of course the massive Red Bull logos all over that car. An interesting thought, isn't it, that Red Bull have gone all over the place with their branding in Formula One and MotoGP and the rest of it before they went into these teams. Amazing thought process all the way back then to be inside the sport. Yeah,
Red
fantastic
Bull's a funny
time.
brand. Red Bull's a funny brand for me. I don't remember ever knowing what Red Bull was until about 2010. I was like, what is this Red Bull? Didn't even know it was in any drink and you could buy it somewhere. I was like, this popped up from absolutely out of nowhere. But then you read the history of it and it goes back to like 1980s
it's significant.
or something. Like,
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
There you go.
It's also to the point for me now that when someone says Red Bull, I think about the Formula One team and I don't think about an energy drink, which is an interesting space to be for a brand like that from a marketing point of view of how they position themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
Lewis,
interesting.
Lewis has got some aspirations taken out of ours then. So,
All right. Let's talk about the overall packaging, Tommy T. We will do Tommy T's television broadcast review, and then we'll talk a little bit about the race.
You're an idiot.
so good.
You're an idiot. It was horrible. This was
it was the
this
best.
This was peak level of craptastic, as I would say, of graphics. The graphics.
Did you
were
see the
woeful,
opening
but also
graphics
excellent.
on KO?
It was hideous.
The FIA
Hideous.
with the Formula One
with
car
the
in
car
the
in
logo.
it is crap, wasn't it?
That is great 2000s branding.
Oh, it was absolutely horrible. I don't know who that commentator was. James and I were thinking, I read somewhere that this was Murray Walker's last year commentating, and I think he finished up in the US or something.
No,
but
it was
whoever
the
this
guy-
was, this guy was useless. He had just monotone. He didn't get excited whatsoever. Bloody DC crosses the line. He's like, and he's 71 laps in, and he's just, I was like, is it over? Has we got one more left? Like, he had no idea what was going on. There was no cadence. There was nothing. The guy was an idiot.
It was very proper
Loved
British.
it.
Tell me why I'm wrong, Campy.
Absolutely loved it. No fluff. Just told me what I need to hear.
I mean,
when
that
I
is
need
true.
to hear it.
No
No
filler.
bullshit that we hear on today's TV. No dad jokes. Just absolute quality. Got a 5-minute break from mid-race when the ad breaks are on too. Just bring it back.
Irvine
seriously.
spun, did a 360. It wasn't even acknowledged on the commentary. He just did a 360, continued on. It wasn't even mentioned.
It would be like Mazepin spinning today. Oh, and Mazepin spin again. Turn 12. Bring it. Quality.
Campy,
Quality.
that was an interesting British voice you did. Can we hear
you do that for
some
the rest of the pod?
The next 5 minutes of you just speaking properly, as if you were commentating on the race.
I don't know how I did it. I think I just kind of did it. And
He's delirious and tired.
You just found somewhere in there. Okay, so but what did you think of the actual television production? Because I have to say the pit lane cameramen were not afraid of getting in the way of the mechanics servicing the car. Nope. A couple of times where they're like, and the tire guy had to like go around the cameraman.
Yeah, they did not care, did they? I think it's also pretty incredible that the technology of cameras back then was far,
poor.
like so much more inferior, but still we had onboards, we had all these kind of things. Like we said this in the previous one that we did. It's incredible that they had onboard footage as good as it is back then, considering now sometimes it breaks apart and we can barely see it. So yeah, that was incredible. I think some of the angles were a bit higher and more awkward than they are now. Like we have far better camera position maybe to watch racing. It was very kind of clunky in parts, and it was almost like hard to recognize the track, wasn't it? Because we're so used to watching Brazil. It was like, what? Oh, that's coming into turn 3.
Yeah.
Like, where am I? Like,
One of
I
the
think we're
things
just so
that
acclimatized to what it is now.
one of the things that I was having a conversation with someone about Liberty Media and what they changed from Bernie to today is, taking the cameras down significantly to make the cars appear faster, which they are anyway, but give the whole thing a little bit more momentum, so it gives that sense that you're actually there. Whereas the old school way of thinking was as high as possible, so you don't have to have as many
Less
camera
cameras.
points around the track. Anyway, and it makes a huge difference, and especially having the mics around the track too. Even Coda a couple of years ago, and guys standing in the bloody tower. As funny as that was, it just those microphones are for like ambience and the car sounds and the crowd noise and everything else. So I really think and praise Liberty for doing what they're doing. But as you say, TT, it's going back at this 20 years ago and looking at the significant change. It just doesn't feel the same, does it?
Nah, it's real different, isn't it? But it was, think about it. It was pretty impressive for what it was back then. Yeah, I just struggle with the lack of enthusiasm maybe from the commentator. I would like to know when something's important or happened. Like, I think he got a bit excited when Crash Verstappen decided to do something, and that was about it. That was it. And then it was just monotone, just like nothing interesting was happening, and he just wanted to go home.
TT then.
But you're coming out of that era with Murray Walker, who obviously had his Murray.
The best.
Who I would relate to like a Richie Benaud for Australian cricket, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very understated in absolutely everything they did. I mean, Murray obviously got excited and was way more exciting than what a Richie was. But like that was the thinking. It's a gentleman's sport back then. It's a sometimes it's better to not say anything than to mouth off and get excited and go with the crowd because we are commentators and we are better. That was sort of the thinking.
I think which you're right, actually.
I kind of like.
Compared to Croffy, which is excited about nothing.
Yeah, but you listen to even what's his name? Ted was doing some what's going on in the pits stuff, and that was very, very laid back from what you see today as well, which I very much like. But in saying that, if I had a choice to go back to that category in 2001 next weekend or what we've got, I'd be going back to 2001 absolutely every day of the week because old school and V10s are better. Put it that way.
It sounded great, didn't it?
It sounded amazing. And it could have done with more microphones around the place for that exact reason. It's a totally different vibe. But look, I mean, that's why we love it. It's a classic race review for this reason, even if it feels a couple of years ago. All right, Tommy T, how many points out of 10, I should say?
Ooh. I might give it an 8, actually, because it
was
pretty good.
You've written in your notes monotone and shit.
Monotone and shit from the commentary, no excitement levels. The graphics got me back.
That ties in, actually. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, the graphics are good.
The very simple graphics of, at least you got the car number and the big
you know what I do
number
like as well? I don't like the digital branding that they put on post where they just have a green screen or whatever live and then they throw in this digital billboards. Give us real billboards. Get out there. Don't be lazy. Get a screen out there and bloody get a sign writer out there and bloody paint it. I want to see it on track. I don't want to see the digital thing moving around dumb.
Oh, that's great. All right, let's talk about the qualifying positions because this is important, of course, for the race. And look, here are the drivers. You'll notice, or maybe you'll be aware of some of these names at least. Michael Schumacher was in first. His brother, Ralph Schumacher, who was driving for Williams, was second. And he was only 0.35 a second off of Michael, which was interesting.
There was 1/10 between the top 8, I think there was.
Incredible, like really incredible stuff. But I mean, that's an awesome, little combo. I love that. It's the first time that two brothers have been on the front row of a Formula One Grand Prix. Mickey Hakkinen started in third, won Pablo Montoya fourth, David Coulthard fifth, Rubens Barrichello sixth, Jarno Trulli, Heinz Harold Frentzen in eighth, Nick Heidfeld in ninth, Kimi Räikkönen in 10th, which is great in his third race, Olivier Panis in 11th, Jacques Villeneuve in 12th, Eddie Irvine 13th, Bertie 14th, Lacey 15th, Bernaldi 16th, Max? Wrong, incorrect. Verkrashen. Jos Verkrashen. 17th. Fisichella in 18th. Alonso 19th. Button 20th. Mazzacane 21st. And Marquez 22nd. And also 22 cars, a good number of cars on the grid. Let's have another team entering Formula One soon, please. Actually, that reminds me. Can I just enter this in here? I said in a previous episode that the whole Alfa, let me just jump back to 2021, the Alfa Romeo situation with Andretti, it's done. No, as in it's no good. It's not happening.
Yes.
They walked backwards from it pretty significantly last week, so that's unfortunate. And it means
sounds like Andretti were talking it up more than Sauber were. So
it kind of then seems now to me that Guan Yu Zhou is going to have that second seat next to our man VB. Anyway, let me go back in time 20 years. An interesting qualifying grid, though. And, fantastic when you think for the rookies of Montoya is starting in 4th in a Williams. Raikkonen and Sauber in 10th. Imagine have Sauber, he's back there now and that's where he's starting now, which is interesting. Button in 20th. Incredible. And Alonso, I should say, also in 19th in a Minardi. I forget that he was in a Minardi. It's good things.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
To happen. Good things and interesting things to happen. But, let's talk about the race, shall we? We'll go through team by team and just talk about the race more generally as well, if you're happy to do that. We'll start at the very back of the grid, which ended up being Williams, BMW, Juan Pablo Montoya, didn't finish. Ralph Schumacher didn't finish. It wasn't good for either of them. Tommy T, Juan Pablo Montoya, absolute cracker after the safety car restart.
He was great, wasn't he?
Oh,
yeah. He was spot on. Like, for a rookie, he was driving so well and you just feel disappointed. Obviously, it came good later in the season for him. But yeah, like really, really impressive to go up against those big titans of talent that were ahead of him. But yeah, just unlucky.
And it was a shame that, there's nothing to do with him. It's absolutely not his fault at all. As I said, it was Jos for crashing, who absolutely misjudged it in his orange branded arrows and came up behind him and completely took off his rear wing, and it was just no good. But the pass that happened, it was a back marker as well, let's not forget. And I wonder if there was another incident with the Verstappen and a back marker at Brazil of note. Can't think of anything. And Ocon and Pink. Anyway, but the idiocy.
Afterwards, Ocon ran away.
The idiocy of that, it was so unnecessary. I think he had a Sauber or the Asa Prost car near him too to try and sort of defend, but he just got into the slipstream of Juan Pablo Montoya, who was just braking for the racing line in the apex. And just went straight into the back of him. And it was really a shame. Because he really, and the way that Juan Pablo Montoya got past Michael Schumacher after the pit stop was incredible. He was sent it down the inside of the Minardi. Safety car. Sent it down the inside of the Minardi and it forced Schumacher to go around the other side, but also blue flags for the Minardi. But yeah, no good. But Ralph Schumacher started in second and it was just absolutely downhill from there. He pitted a couple of times and that was no good. Campy, driving for Williams too. He had the pace almost of his brother, but it wasn't to be.
Look, Ralph was never as accomplished as his brother, but by God, on his day, that guy was quick and, could beat anybody. Never really had the car, but he had cars on tracks like today, but he got taken out by Rubens lap one. So Rubens braked into him, and I don't think it was lap one. It was after the restart, I think. So,
it was, yeah.
Yeah, and shame for him. You saw him. I like the fact that he goes into the pits, gets his rear wing changed. They replace it. He's 4 laps down, and he comes out and he still races the race. Still passing people, trying to unlap himself. I like seeing that. I think that's a good result for our sport. They should bring a bit of that back. I know it's difficult. Why would you try and do it these days? Engine allocations and stuff like that. It was a different time back then. But a bit of a shame for Ralph getting taken out like he did. You saw what his teammate was doing up the front. Just not an all-round good day for Williams, was it?
It sounds pretty familiar to recent times too.
They were dominant back then, weren't they?
They were.
This was
and BMW
Williams
as well, Campy. The involvement of BMW, that was nice to see. That onboard shot of Juan Pablo Montoya coming through the back section of Interlagos and the big BMW logo in the middle of the wheel. Just I think that looks really, really great.
That's cool.
Be great to have them.
They were pretty good. They were a really competitive team up until 2005, I believe it was, when Mark Webber went there, and it was
classic. Mark Webber goes anywhere.
Which is a real shame. But that team on paper was a pretty good team to go to. But that was 05 was the real start of its downfall. It got a bit of a kick back up when we went to the turbo hybrid era. But Yeah, a bit of a shame. Well, it's not really. I mean, Williams have had some great results historically, but not this weekend. Bit of a shame.
Jaguar Cosworth. Birdie, I didn't see much of. He went out with an engine failure, but Eddie Irvine had a couple of spins.
Jeez,
my favorite one was when the camera was pointed on Michael Schumacher and he went off around 6 and between 6 and 7, and he kept cooking it, and there was kind of like some smoke just off the left of shot. Like, they cut to another camera and there's him going off and Irvine just doing this full 360
Spinning.
next to him. Like, interesting. And it's worth probably
That
talking about
livery is
here.
exactly how I remember it too.
I was going to say, that
yeah.
livery is the
Always
worst
driving.
livery on the friggin' grid. That was disgusting.
I really like it. Campy, do you
Yeah, I
like
like
it?
it
can
too.
have it.
Yeah, I'm
No, that's
into
the
You can
bottom
have
for me.
it. British racing green.
It's also worth probably talking about here because of all, obviously, the spins, is we haven't mentioned the weather yet at Interlagos,
Yeah.
and we obviously started with a dry race, and around lap 40 is when it all started going on, and some rain. This is the kind of weather that we like. It kind of is like, it's a little bit wet, DC didn't pit, Michael Schumacher pit, and that caused a bit of issues later on. But Campy, when we say it rains, at Dave Munnis, if you don't mind arranging this is the kind of vibe that we want later on, kind of like Russia this year, right? Later on, it throws a bit of jeopardy. When do you pit? Is it worth it? All that sort of other stuff.
We want like a good solid 5-minute like Melbourne dumping of rain.
Yep.
You have
And then
to
it
choose.
go away really quickly. And then
And then the
dry.
sun comes back out. Yep.
So over the whole scheme of it, it's like a 15-minute exercise to get back from from perfect racing conditions from the start of the rain back to perfect racing positions is like 15 to 18 minutes, and then it's like perfect chaos over, settle back into the race. People have crashed out that you don't like, and the people you want to win get up the front. It's just
That's how it works.
that's how it works. But that's what we want. So,
But
I just remember the onboard of Montoya when he's out the front. I think it was about lap 35, and they were talking about him doing the one stop because they were all astounded that he had that pace, going to run the one stop. And then you could just see the clouds in the background. They were just coming from everywhere. I was like, oh, this is going to get interesting. Because that's when the race really got interesting, about 40 when the rain came. Because, we had an interesting start, but it didn't really get exciting until, that lap 40 odd.
But these dry tyres they still had grooves. They weren't true slicks, were they? They're going to move some water. They're not going to move all the water like you'd want a full wet to. But I would prefer to be on these dry tyres than I would to be on modern day dry tyres, that's for sure.
Yep.
Like what we've got at the moment are just literally ice skates. The other part I really enjoyed, while we're quickly talking about tyres, was the aggression of everyone leaving the pit box after a pit stop. Just lit them up. And were they fully engaged their engines while up on the jacks, which is now illegal, right? They were.
I think it was when they were down off of the jacks and they were refueling. So they
still
went into
refueling.
first gear, but they were sitting at that release clutch point. But you're right, it
revving
looks
them.
like. But also because the car just sits a little higher, it seems like than current day cars.
But lit them up on the way out, didn't they?
It was like off the grid when they did the the formation lap. It's just pouring smoke off the back of Schumacher's car. Like, oh, is he okay? Oh yeah, he's just laying down some rubber.
just get
None
some
of
grip
this.
in that
We
pit
need
box.
3.5 burnouts on the way to your ped entry. That's just it's half a burnout. Oh,
Half a burnout.
Yeah, could you just measure half the tyre, please? Oh, no, you've done a full burnout. I'm knocking 20 mil off your contract.
That's 0.4 actually, mate. Sorry. Go back and do a little 0.1.
That'll provide us optimum clutch and temperature.
Jeez. It's insane, isn't it? But no, I think that was fun. Also, quickly on the pits, how useless were some of these pit stops? It was like they just grabbed some dudes off the street. They did not know what they were doing half the time. We see the ultimate precision now. Well, we've had a little bit of shaky with rule changes this year, but like in comparison, this was just clown show. Some of the dudes, I think one of the better ones was like a 6 or a 7 second one that I think DC had, but it wasn't uncommon for 9.5. I think I've got here for Schumacher, and he was just like frustrated.
Remember they're refueling too.
I did
So
make that point. Yeah, you're right.
There's not a massive
But they're spending
rush to
5 or 6 seconds just trying to disconnect the fuel.
There was a few of those,
And as
wasn't
you
there?
say, the commentator's like, Oh, they're finding it a bit tricky to get the fuel hose out of the car. It's a bit tricky, mate. He's been stuck there for 6 seconds.
Someone took off with it still attached, didn't they? And then come back.
Yeah.
I wonder why we don't refuel anymore.
But it throws jeopardy in, doesn't it? It's like, what level do you start at? How much faster can the car be? Yeah, it's very, very interesting. But look, Brazil is a great track. It looks like we're going there in 2021 still. But we haven't been told that that's not a vibe. So that's only in a couple of weeks' time, which is going to be fantastic. But I was seeing, it was so good, I should say, seeing this track again. I have missed it on the calendar, that is for sure.
This is a cracking track.
Let's talk about Arrow's Asia Tech. I love title sponsors in this era. The orange, it should be orange. I don't know why they went. Verstappen, as we said, DNF, he collided stupidly. Stupid move. Very, very stupid a lot. And Benaldi getting out with a hydraulics issue. Campy, we don't really have the same kind of issue, but this reliability of the early thousands, you almost forget about, don't you, in the turbo hybrid era rather, that this had a big issue. Like there was lots of problems for a lot of these cars.
Yeah, massive problems because they're running the engines. To get the performance out of the car and the engines, I mean, you've got to run them right on the edge of where they are. I remember that McLaren. It doesn't surprise me. The first thing I sat down, I was like, oh, geez, one of these McLarens is going to retire, because that's what I remember of the McLaren. Yeah. On its day, it was lightning quicker than absolutely everybody else by a country mile, especially in that that DC and Mika Hakkinen era just before that. So like 97, 98, 99. I think Villeneuve drove for him in 97 and won a championship too. But anyway, it was a part of the sport, and just because they're extracting so much and they're expecting so much performance out of the engines, hence what happens. You'd go to Grand Prix and sometimes only you'd have 9 finishes, and that was the norm. I mean, to have 7 or 8 today, that's unheard of in today's F1, but back then it was a normal reality. But it was an extra part of the sport that you miss sometimes because it it throws up the results. So. Anyway.
Also interesting, of course, having the earthing medal points in the pit stops with the cars coming over the top. I was like, what the hell are they? Obviously, after not watching Formula One for a while from the refueling era, but it just seemed funny to me. They were just running over it.
That makes sense.
It does. It's just very bizarre. Little things. It probably shows that we're not that old, but I feel it today. Minardi European, Marquez 9th, which wasn't too bad for Minardi. I mean, everyone else had retired by this point, so I'm pretty sure they were almost the last finishes, which ties in for Minardi. But Fernando, again, first year in Formula One, third race, DNF with an electrical issue. We didn't see a hell of a lot, Campy, of Nando at the back, but I mean, Minardi wasn't really. Who is the Minardi of today? Are we like Haas, or is Williams kind of the Minardi of today? Sometimes they could do some good stuff, but not often.
Probably Haas. Maybe this year it would be the Williams, but. Yeah, it's not a team that reeks of success, is it? So
no, unless you come like fifth or sixth.
I just wanted to point out, what did we have? We had 4 current world champions driving on the grid.
Button,
at the start of this
Alonso,
race, we had
current.
So Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen.
Yep.
Who else?
Button, Alonso.
I think Villeneuve and Alesi.
Oh, sorry.
All had world championships
exactly as you
currently.
said, TT.
Yeah.
Currently. And then we had Alonso, Button, Raikkonen, and who else won one? There's someone else in there. So like 7.
It's
you
incredible.
Can't put Verstappen in there. And like there's 7 world champions on the grid driving. I mean,
it's pretty nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, if you could have a crystal ball and go back to 2001.
Can't believe we've still got 2 of them driving now. It's insane.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
It's ridiculous is what it is.
Yeah.
But can I just say...
racing with one of the sons of another dude.
Yeah, right, yeah. Jeez, actually, very good point.
I raced against your dad.
Alonso, though...
My dad said he'd fight your dad.
The only thing Alonso's changed is his speed dealer sunnies. His hair and everything else is exactly the same, but the speed dealer
He'd still wear the
sunnies
speed
have
dealers.
gone.
I think if they'd let him, I think the styling team get a hold of it and say, you're not allowed to wear them anymore, mate. They switch him out when he gets to the track.
It's just I just have these memories of him in these silver speed dealer sunnies, reflective things with his long hair and his big Renault. Obviously, when he went to Renault in a couple of years anyway, very very good.
Yeah.
Nice to see Alonso on the grid, a name that we see today. Here's a team that I genuinely haven't probably didn't even think about back then, but haven't thought about really ever. Prost Acer. Talk about another sponsor in Acer. Campy, do you know much of the history of the Prost team?
Not a tiny bit. There's a few teams that I didn't even recognize. That was the team that I didn't recognize, and there was a couple of drivers that I didn't recognize.
But John Lacey driving for them, I didn't even realize he was there in this year. So, I mean, that's a nice thing to see. Their livery was terrible, Tommy T.
Oh,
Blue and black. That was it.
Yeah.
No good.
Couldn't tell you who Mazzacane or Marks was, just no idea. Hadn't even heard those names in my life.
No.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, there it is what it is. We'll probably have some people listening who were potentially there.
How dare you?
Yeah, they were great, probably. Well, sorry, but it's just doing a classic race review, all right? I don't know what we're talking about. None of us do.
year.
But John Lacey, 8th. Oh, there you go. I was going to say finished. No, yeah, he finished ahead of Minardi Classic in a team that probably failed a lot sooner than Minardi did. But Bennett and Renault, here we go, Jensen Button. Campy, Button wasn't really supposed to be driving for this team this year, was he? Where was he supposed to be?
he was supposed to be in the Williams. He was supposed to have Montoya's spot. Button was the next young up-and-comer, but I believe Montoya had tested for Williams a couple of years earlier.
He had before going to the States.
And he went to the States and just absolutely destroyed Champ Car, which was IndyCar back in the day. And he said, we got to get this guy over. Unfortunately for Button, he missed out on his seat. I mean, his career worked out anyway, so long term, so we don't have to worry about that. But at the time, he probably would have been pulling teeth knowing that he could have been in that Williams up front and performing really well and driving for, the Benetton that he was in. So, bit of a shame, but hey, it's motorsport, right?
The Benetton didn't look too bad, Tommy T.
It was all right. It was, It's not my favourite. I'll tell you who my favourite is when we get to it.
All right. But Fizzy, here's another name who performs the first couple of laps and then fizzes out for it. Campy, they sort of did it again for this race.
Hey, he was quick when he was at Renault. At times, he showed
At times, exactly.
At times.
Compared to...
it's consistency of you not swearing. That's what the consistency is.
I didn't realise he was Fisichella was under the same management as Webber, Alonso, and there was someone else. I want to say it was Jarno Trulli, but don't quote me on Jarno. Yeah, they were all under the Flavio Briatore banner. So,
I saw a post that he's doing
a fun
something
fact for that guy.
Flavio's coming back, I think, in some capacity. I saw a post that he did with Stefano Domenicali like last week or the week before, where his face like, I feel like we've had enough, Flav, to be honest. Can we probably move on? Nope, I'm coming back. I feel unimportant, so I need to make an entrance again. But look, Button on the grid. Who would have thought that in 8 years' time he would be world champion? Really, really cool. Jordan Honda, truly in 5th, and Heinz Harold Frentzen was a real shame because he was running in 3rd before he had an electrical issue. It was obviously Eddie Jordan sitting on the pit wall looked pretty frazzled at that point.
He did.
And Truly was running in 4th for a while as well before then finishing in 5th, of course. Heinz Harold Frentzen, I think it was a really great driver, Campy. Do you remember much of him in the field?
No, I don't. Look, I wasn't a massive F1 fan back then. I used to watch it because Melbourne was in it, but he is, he's regarded as a very good, competent driver, but just one of those drivers that never really got in the team never really got in the team that got consistent results that you talk about. for years on years. But I mean, geez, he was unlucky today, wasn't he?
He was unlucky.
Yeah, geez, he run in third, was pretty secured. Yes, some things happened, but he got a great start. What did he start? 11th odd, I think he was 6th, but after the start of the safety car, and then some things happened in front of him, and he just continued. There's some genuine pace in the car. He was definitely that 35 to 40 seconds behind the mock Schumacher at the time, but pretty consistent. But hey, that's what happens when you make mistakes. Do you make a mistake?
No, electrical issue. That's
right.
Yeah, he just had to pull off the track. But I mean,
but that was late on. That was like within 5 laps of the end. So
and he was running for a podium. But don't forget, of course, Tommy T. The campus, the Aston Martin campus, is replacing where these guys went back to as their head offices, the Jordan offices. But do you like this livery? Yellow?
This is my favourite livery.
Yay, there it is. I thought it would be.
The high vis. It was great. Yeah, bring it back. Better than high vis pink, that's for sure.
The head of BWT would disagree with you completely. The cars look rubbish on the grid.
No, I thought it was great. I liked seeing Eddie Jordan as well wearing high vis. He looked great.
And Eddie Jordan on the pit wall,
didn't he?
He did. He was just. I mean, I'm sure it would be great to have a conversation with Eddie Jordan at one point, but it just
he's a character.
He just.
Who do you reckon we're going to see of like drivers in our era now that we've kind of been Lakeside Drive's been around for, or Oz F1 before that? Mm-hmm. Who do you reckon we're going to see start teams or be heads of teams and kind of move into that arena? Is there anyone?
Danny Rick will be the next Jackie Stewart for sure. Just a barrel of laughs.
Just wearing a kilt around unnecessarily, being incredibly
cowboy hat,
inappropriate.
Chaps.
Yeah, exactly. Arseless chaps and a basketball.
Arseless chaps.
He'd go for it. Let me while we're on Danny Rick, can we have a sidebar here? Again, a current day sidebar. I don't care. This is the official Lakeside Drive opinion on this topic. I don't care if Danny Rick has a girlfriend. Stop asking me. Stop messaging me if I've heard the news, if I know anything. No, I don't care. All right? Just let me put that there. That we're not... Campy is the gossip column writer here in this. Message him.
Go to thomasjcamp.com.au.
Yeah.
My missus... when we were recording we were recording the podcast on Monday night. We're doing the Coda review.
Yes.
My missus sent me a text saying, "Oh, Daniel Ricciardo's got a new girlfriend," and linked me to the thing. And I just like... The amount of fucks that I do not give about that guy's personal life. He's got a girlfriend. Awesome. Apparently, it's Gerhard Berger's daughter.
We don't need to talk. We don't need to make.
Look, who cares? Seriously, we don't talk about that rubbish.
Yeah.
But I've just been reading some tabloids about Flavio. Apparently, he's got a new wife, so that's why he's coming back to F1.
Wow. You can get all this and more at thomasjcamp.com.au for an update on his blog.
Well, you brought up Flavio, so I thought I'd Google it quickly because you said you teased to come back to F1. And
he just said something coming soon. I didn't realise it was another divorce. Allegedly.
Excellent.
Very good. My face hurts. BAR Honda. Olivier Panis, by the way, he started in 11th, not Howard Frenson, but 11th to 4th was a mega effort by him, especially in this Honda. Incredible drive, finished in 4th, as I said, and Jacques Villeneuve in 7th. Villeneuve was not having a good time out. Tommy T, he's kind of all over the place, had a couple of offs.
Just unlucky. Yeah. Wrong place, wrong time. Just couldn't get together. Still walked away with 7th, just out of the points though. In our era, he'd be great.
I'd love to bring old points era into new.
We should go back and do that for this season.
We could still be laughing at George.
Very good. Yeah, but Olivier Panis, good. Great drive from him. Shame that he missed the podium because I really think that he deserved it with the drive that he did. And the BAR Honda team, great pit stops as well. Well, maybe not all the time. When they went for wets, they had Villeneuve stuck behind Olivier
Double
for ages and ages and ages and ages. And the commentary was, It seems they've got some work to do down at BAR Honda. It's like, yes, some work. Good.
Maybe.
Good point.
You could just about flip a coin whether you like the next race review, whatever we do. You could flip a coin whether or not Honda's involved here.
It's about that.
I can't decide. It's literally a coin toss.
Sauber. Back when Sauber was Sauber is Sauber. Heidfeld in third. Takes his first Formula One podium in this race. Great for him. Shame for Kimi, though. Young Kimi, very young Kimi.
Baby
Lots
Kimi.
of exuberance in that face. His eyes.
His liver was
said
probably
more
alive.
than 2 words.
Little possum. Deer in headlight.
He was, but he went off. Like where he went off was very much into like the grass. He found a little bit of a rut as well, and he just was just heading backwards whilst jumping around a lot in the car. It didn't seem like it was a very good thing for him.
But Kimi got a point in his first race in Melbourne.
He did.
Yeah.
Finishing
Came
in
out with a
6th.
bang.
What?
And that's
Imagine
Sauber.
coming through those junior categories, racing Alonso, Kimi, Button, and you're going, how on earth am I going to get a spot?
Yeah.
In hindsight, looking back, but there wasn't. James Courtney actually raced toe-to-toe, the V8 supercar driver. He raced toe-to-toe with those guys right throughout their junior formulas. And he was supposed to make his debut with Jaguar, I think in 2004 or 2005, but Mark Webber took his seat. So maybe it was a bit later on, but he was beaten. He was like genuinely one of the best talents that Australia's ever seen for Formula One, especially in single-seaters in Europe at that time. He was making Alonso and those guys look almost second rate by some of his performances. But
Genuine shame.
He had a big crash at Monza, I believe, in an F1 car when he was testing for someone, which Michael Schumacher pulled him out of, and Schumacher just thought he was dead afterwards. So
Wow.
Anyway, I think I listened to a podcast. I think it was a Howie Games with James Courtney. It was 3 or 4 years ago. But go back and have a listen because that cracking interview about his junior formula and a junior career in Europe.
Yeah, that's what listener needs, Campy. Plugs from an independent podcast.
Jeez.
Thanks.
He doesn't care. Look at him.
No, look at him.
Oh, what's an independent podcast? I wouldn't know.
This?
I don't know. The one that you're on.
Yeah. The 2 that you're on? Oh my goodness. But anyway, Kimi on the grid. Interesting. Third time out, sponsored by Red Bull. He's gone through all of the major sponsors, hasn't he? With Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and now his sponsor, Dillygaff. His major sponsor is Dillygaff, to be honest. If you don't know what that stands
he
for.
remembers any of his sponsors or teams, or he just doesn't care?
No. It'd be interesting to see how Sauber do next year and see if they're in a similar position to be fighting around that 6th position with VB. Be interesting if VB's ahead of the Mercedes of George Russell in a Sauber.
Amazing.
Let's talk about Ferrari, shall we? Campy, Michael Schumacher. Look, a bit of a masterclass, it had to be said, on the opening lap. It was lucky, of course, to not have any pressure from Mika Hakkinen, but he absolutely blitzed his brother off the start, and by turn 3 or 4, it was almost a 2-second gap. It was genuinely ridiculous how far up the road he got compared to the rest of the grid.
Yeah, didn't do anything wrong on the first lap. I think he had the pace in that car to run away from Juan Pablo if he had maintained
that safety car
track position.
Yeah,
I mean, he was running lower fuel, and I know they pitted him earlier, so we still don't know how much fuel they actually had in the car at that stage. But they were playing around with strategies a bit. But yeah, lightning quick. I mean, he made some mistakes in the wet though, right?
Yeah.
Just pushing a little too hard, do you think, or was it just the conditions were getting away from him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Conditions getting away, but I just think you could make mistakes in those cars just the way they drove back in the day. But
that McLaren was so stuck in the wet, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just looked.
We'll get to DC's setup
driving on rails, but I feel like you could get away with a bit more in those cars back then. Whereas today, if Schumacher made those mistakes today, it's like he's losing, at least 10 spots easily. So, look, it's still phenomenally quick. I mean, that was the second year of his era. So he's at the top of his powers and only getting better at that stage. Yeah, the car over one lap was extremely quick.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, we talk about tyres and things. I think looking back, it's a bit of a taint. I think it taints their sport a bit. Not that people in the media talk about it that often, but if you're a true fan, you remember those things and still get frustrated by them when you go back and watch. So, yeah, super talent though, super quick. Good result for him.
One of the best holds, I think, or saves he had was just after DC had come out of the pits for wets and he was going through turn 4, I think it was, and he was like half spun the car, but just put the right lock on, the opposite steering lock, to just stop it from totally spinning and keep it pointing in the right direction. He did. It just held.
You saw Juan Pablo do that as well. I mean, the commentators are talking about Juan Pablo, particularly out of the last turn onto the straight.
Yeah,
very
nice drift.
Getting his right foot down.
It was a nice drift, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he had to correct the oversteer and the snap, but it didn't seem to affect the rest of the lap or the rest of the straight. It just if you did that today, you'd lose positions from the guy behind you.
Yep. And your tyres would be cooked for the rest of the race.
Yeah, totally. But you just don't seem like back then those mistakes or the aggressiveness, you could catch them and react a bit quicker, and it wasn't so detrimental to your lap time.
Yeah. So. One of my favourite things was Michael afterwards talking about when he got past and how he was like, nope, that was a fine. He kind of pushed me off, but that's racing. Like the way he actually kind of didn't blame anyone, didn't kind of complain. He was like, nope, that's racing. He's like, that's good racing.
A little bit of touch, which is fine. Yeah,
a little bit of touch, a little bit. I was like, well, that's refreshing to be like, I don't know.
Yeah, but wait till later on. Juan Pablo versus Michael Schumacher.
It's cute now, isn't it? Yeah.
That was the start. Oh, that was very polite, you know. Schumacher did some dodgy stuff. I don't know. I think it was Barcelona. He's like, yeah, there's a good...
he was the master of mind games as well, wasn't he? Maybe this was the start of it.
Yeah.
10-second TikTok video of, oh, no, he didn't see me. He didn't see me. I was right beside him. He didn't see me.
Campy has TikTok? What?
Nah, just these little shorts on YouTube come up sometimes that you see these funny stuff, and Juan Pablo's taking the piss out of Michael, and it's just hilarious.
I'm shocked.
Yep.
I'll find it and send it to you.
Shorts on YouTube equals TikTok to Campy. There we
Is
are.
that what it is?
No.
I don't know. Is it TikTok?
This is called YouTube Shorts. Mate, the fact that you're watching video content and are happy to post a link in a forum somewhere, being our Discord, is great. It's great from you.
Which I'm trying.
You're doing very well, mate. It's very good. Here's your Nokia 3310. Make sure you charge the battery every 5 weeks because it just holds battery forever.
I'm watching fly fishing videos at the moment. Just can't get enough of it.
What?
Fly fishing and RC planes. Oh, I love those things. Not drones, RC planes. Oh, going old school.
What model RC plane would you like? If we were to buy you something for your birthday, are you like a mini scale A380 or 747, or do you want like a fighter jet, or do you just want like a Baron kind of looking thing?
I just want one of those ones that they're like $50. They're polystyrene. You crash them once and it's all over, but they've got a little turbo in the back that shoots air out the back, acts like a thruster, and it's good to go.
So we need about 10 of those for your first attempt then if you crash once. Campy,
a friend of mine's got them and they're great fun.
That would be great content to film. Absolutely irrelevant to Lakeside Drive, but would just be great content. Watching you figuring out how to fly a car. I'll get the swear machine ready, the beep machine ready for that bit.
I'm smarter than I look. I assure you.
Ruben's not smarter than he looks. There we go. Terrible, but no good for he didn't even get around the opening or the formation lap. Here's a question for you, Tommy T. First, do you think teams should have spare cars right now in 2021?
No.
I'd like to see it. But I think there should be a penalty associated with it the following week or something, or maybe not on the day. I think you go, okay, well, you can have the car today, but next week you're going to have to take a 10-place drop or something. I want to see everyone race, especially Rubens in his home race. Like, that's what you want. That's what we all want, is for him to have a crack, especially in the Ferrari, which was so competitive then. He had a chance to win. But through no fault of his own, just Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was something
standard
engine
Ferrari
failure.
second driver.
Yeah,
Things
there
just
you
go wrong when they should go right.
And they're going, oh, we need to set up, reset up the second car, because it's set up for Michael. So we'll just set it up for you, Rubens. And as the commentary said, it was like an unfamiliar car for him.
It's not
which
even
was
a
no
conspiracy anymore. It's just like
there was
Who's the
never
second
any
driver
doubt.
for Ferrari
more than
now?
10 years, and geez, Ferrari's just dodgy.
But Rubens, great. Mega driver. Very unlucky, of course, but he did collect the back of Ralf Schumacher, which was his fault. Whether or not it was the car, because he just wasn't used to it and outbraked himself, as you said about the crash and Tommy T. It was kind of a weird maneuver, though, weird place, and bizarre that Ralph managed to get away without as much damage. One of Rubens' tires was like, see you later, and went on ahead of him.
We forget that tethers are so important now because they don't fly off like that anymore.
Indeed.
Was that incident at Melbourne, wasn't it? A bit back where it flew into the crowd. Yeah, it flew through that gravel trap and just kept going. It probably went, I don't know, hundreds of meters. But yeah, it looked like Ralph was going to be able to keep going until he didn't have a rear spoiler, and everything was like, we're done.
Yeah, that was no good. McLaren Mercedes. Best livery, I think, for McLaren. I love the Papaya now, but when I think about McLaren Mercedes, I think,
is what you think?
exactly of this car, the 2001 car. I think about Mika. I think about DC. I think about the fresh young chin on DC as he was smiling, holding up that trophy.
I think Vodafone Lewis. I reckon that's where I go.
Look, it's okay to be wrong, Tommy.
That's just what my brain does. I'm sorry. Sorry for the wrong opinion.
But look,
I'm with you.
I love it.
Silver and black.
Yeah, and just
West.
2001, West, exactly. And like the Mika and the David with, and then the Kimi when he came in the same similar vibe to West.
Yep.
I just big fan, and I was so happy that DC won this race. I think I was happy back when it was on, and I was very happy again. I'd forgotten who'd won, which was a nice thing for me. I was like, did Juan Pablo Montoya win this race? And yeet. Oh, no, he didn't. Okay, good. Who won then? I don't know. But to see DC, very, very good. Of course, good points for him in the third. We obviously know that he didn't end up ever getting a World Drivers' Championship, but this was on for him. He just turned 30. Yep. This was like the season that he could have a proper crack, couldn't he, Tommy T, at Ferrari, at Schumacher to try and break that dominance. But it was really great. Like the way that he drove the car, as he said after the race as well, he and his engineers set up the car for the rain. So there's the reason why he wasn't so quick to begin with, that explains it. But he was closing that gap to Juan Pablo and Michael pretty consistently, and then just hung around in third position, just didn't let them go away. Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as it got wet, like you saw him on the dry tire. I nearly said soft then because that's not what it was. But on the dry tire, he still had it together. He was losing time, but not as much as anyone else. And when he put those full wets on, he was flying. And that thing was on rails, like Campy said. Just they took the risk and set it up for the wet, and it paid off.
Yeah, and as you said, totally different from the Ferrari in terms of setup-wise, of course, being in the wet, but the confidence he had. Also, what's a pit lane entry line in Interlagos in 2001?
Do what you want.
They were almost like going up straight to the barrier.
Love that.
The first couple of laps, I was
Bring
like,
it back.
geez, they're pitting early. Never mind. They're still going down the main straight.
Use all of the track.
Very, very interesting. But yeah, fantastic. Look, it was 3 seconds ahead. Sorry, it was 3 seconds behind Michael at one point. That's not right. Hang on, let me start that again. When he was on dry tires in the wet, he was just obviously, as you said, really struggling. But Michael pit a lap early. He had that pace, and because they were fresh rubber, of course, and it was still a lot of water on the track, Michael managed to make up that gap. That half spin that he had, Michael, I'm talking about in that turn 4, meant that DC was able to claw back that time that he'd lost in being out on the dry, and then just hunted him down. And this is where he passed, of course, as I said earlier on, passing that Minardi, that back marker on the inside, just sent it alongside Michael. Like that was a very DR move if we want to talk about modern day Formula One in terms of just having that confidence in the car. But yeah, as Michael said after the race in the press conference, it's good. Like, effectively it's like he deserves that win because he drove the wheels off it.
Yep.
Outstanding. It was his first win in F1 too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I
looks
think
very
he
happy
won
about it.
previous year, but first win this year for
right.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
first win for this year. But Mika
I
Hakkinen,
mean, it's got to be good. Got to be good passing Michael Schumacher.
Oh, and the way he did it too was just epic.
yeah, it was confidence. He
I
totally had
remember Mark
confidence.
Webber
car.
lapped Michael Schumacher once in his Red Bull, and he's just said that it's just absolute
That's weird.
delight for all the things.
Yeah.
No, well, just because he'd been lapped so many times by him in his career to get one back on him, you know what I mean? But to pass Michael Schumacher for a win
Yeah.
in the wet
Oh.
in Brazil, geez,
In
that's
turn
like-
one, in the spot where
In
if
the
you send
spot.
it, you can be rewarded.
Not many people get to say that, do they?
No, and if you misjudge it, you're going straight ahead, or you have a big accident and you know you bugger it. But it was genuinely brilliant to watch. As I said, Mika Hakkinen, disaster for him. Tommy T was waving his hands about before he even had the lights on.
Speaking of no big accident, I was expecting that to be carnage when he
Huge.
couldn't get started. I
Oh.
don't know how they avoided him so well. Who was directly behind him? Because they did a great move. Oh, it was DC. DC was directly behind him. He was in fifth, I'm pretty sure, and just jumped straight out the way. He angled his car almost like it jumped diagonally. He did it that quickly. Obviously, I think that was because Mika was waving his hands so early because he knew something was wrong. But
And up and over the airbox too.
Airbox
like
as
if you
well to
notice,
make
his
sure.
right hand was a lot higher.
Yeah, for
It was
sure.
truly for me that was almost the collected Mika moment. Like it was really just sort of last minute tucked out of the way. But let's talk about track safety, shall we? Let's talk about stewards. Not stewards, marshals on the track. Of course, lap one. Oh, well, Mika's car's there. What are we going to do? We're going to deploy the safety car. And where's the safety car going to pick them up? Oh, outside of the pits. Okay, so nothing, not even close to where the accident or the car is. No.
let's just wave yellows and hope they slow down.
I imagine before seeing it, I was like, okay, well, obviously the car will remain there, but Mika and all of the crew will get off the
Get
track
out.
as all the cars. But nope, just standing
Just
there,
stand there.
literally next to the car as watching the rest of the cars. But I'm just watching them. I hope you don't hit me. But just astounding. And also just parking cars. Oh, you're broken, like Rubens. Oh, we'll just leave
leave
this
it
car
over
here.
Love
Just
that.
leave it there.
I'm about that,
Whatever.
to be honest. Leave it over there. It's an obstacle.
That was the first, but the car that we kept seeing in the shot was his first car sitting
Yeah,
on the
it
side.
was.
There's two Rubens cars scattered around Interlagos. Where's the other one? Careful someone doesn't take it home for a souvenir like the DRS sign from Coda that someone took from last weekend.
And Interlagos is like, that is a nightmare of a track to retrieve cars from.
Oh,
so I'm
yeah.
told. So,
Yeah.
just the way the layout is. So.
Well, there you go, lads. There is a classic race review. Overall, Tommy T, give me your thoughts about what it's like going back and watching a classic race, especially compared to a current season.
Well, we've done two now. We've done two very different eras, and I think I prefer this era just because it's more kind of, I know a few more of the people. I've seen them drive more recently. It was great. I think we should do more from this kind of era onwards closer to our era. I think it'd be really interesting. I liked it. I really enjoyed it.
Campy?
Yeah, loved it. Love it. Love everything about this sport. Love the sound. Love the cars, the personalities. Commentary's way better from back then. Do more of it. Everything about it's good. Old school is better.
There you go. I agree. Loved it. As I said, I think this is my favorite looking car, 2001. It's before we started getting more aerodynamic bits and pieces. Like the 2004 also looks good, but just more random fins and stuff started to appear. So for me, this is the best. That McLaren Mercedes livery. Chef's kiss from me. Well, lads, look, in a week's time, we have Mexico, which is very, very exciting. Back into current day 2021. Here's a question for you. If you are Sergio Perez and you're leading the Mexican Grand Prix and Max Verstappen is in second behind you and Red Bull come over the radio and say, we needed to give the first place to Max to get that driver's championship across the line. Tommy T, what do you do?
If I'm Checo, no.
You hold on?
Yep.
Campy?
Yeah, I'm not.
I'd be like,
giving in to my team,
tell him to
no
pass
way.
me on track.
I'll never do what I'm told. No, not a chance.
Can confirm.
Okay, yes, absolutely.
But-
Confirm.
Checo, he's not me. And he's
Yeah.
giving up that spot every day of the week.
I reckon
It'd
he
be
knows
interesting.
where he's,
I just wanted to throw that at you because I think it's an interesting thought now, of course, as we're getting to the very pointy end of the Drivers' Championship and Max is there. Of course, I think Red Bull, as I think you said, Campy, Red Bull want to win the World Drivers' Championship with Max because more people remember who wins the Drivers' Championship than the Constructors, of course.
Yep.
So there'll be big efforts there. We know Checo's good around here. A couple of years ago, when he considered sixth the win, was it? A sixth or seventh he came in the racing points. Like, I consider this a win.
As good as. Basically a win.
Not really.
He's in
but
a machine that can actually do it now.
Potentially in a car, and especially if we've seen in the last couple of races, as I said last in the race review for Coda, that he's found his own setup style now with this car. Potentially, as he knows this track very, very well, he'll find a good setup there. But Campy, in terms of this track, overall, who do you think we're going to see come out on top? Is this a Red Bull, McLaren, or a Mercedes, or a Ferrari now track?
No, this is a Red Bull track every day of the week. It has been for going back. I mean, Danny Rick had pole here in 2018, I believe, before he moved on. I think if you look at the results from the last couple of years, I think Max has won too. So, yeah, this is a Red Bull track. They'll be looking for at least a win for Max, if not a 1-2. But they'll be wanting to get, Max's championship lead up above that 25-point mark. And I will be jumping on my, what do you call it this weekend?
Fantasy
driver.
Turboing Max. So.
Well, you can Mega Max, do that.
Yeah, sorry,
Turbo
the only reason I ask is because traditionally the United States has been a Mercedes track, which is why I megged Lewis last time. And
Idiot.
it was correct. Well, I'm in no shot of any winning. But look, if you're listening and you have a fantasy team, don't forget to change your fantasy name. We are giving away some merchandise at the end of the year, which is not that far away. It is only a couple of weeks away now for the best name and, of course, top 3. So there'll be some merch flying around all over the world. We ship all over the world, by the way. If you want a T-shirt and you live in the Cayman Islands, Freya, you can have a T-shirt. You live anywhere, UK, US, we deliver all over the place. So thank you to you for listening to this podcast. As I said earlier on, thank you for subscribing on our YouTube channel. It makes a big difference. Don't forget to jump across to our Discord server and join the conversation there. And a massive thank you to Lewis as well, who's running our social media, doing a very, very good job there. We really appreciate his involvement. So if you could go and show him some love on Instagram and Facebook, please go and do that too. Well, lads, looking forward to chatting all things Mexico, of course. Sunday, 10:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time is when we will have our pre-drinks podcast, a Mexican pre-drinks podcast, and then 5:30 Monday after Australian Eastern Daylight Time is the race review. That's it for now. We will see you in a couple of days, really, for the Mexican Grand Prix.